excited to have both Brandon Steiner, who I've known with and spent all my money with for many, many years here in the Clubroom, along with Willie Randolph, 25,000-time World Series champion with the New York Yankees. For fans of other baseball teams, sorry. But we're going to talk about more about that. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Clubroom here real fast. And it's brought to you by the Win Again Academy. And just 2 seconds about me. I've been working with athletes and executives for many, many years, helping them transition from what they were doing to what's next, especially for athletes making that transition from their sport to their next great career. The mission of the Win Again Academy, which is part of what this whole Clubroom is all about, is really to create a community of athletes and non-athletes who can all elevate their games, their businesses, their careers, everything to a whole new level by hosting events like this where you can connect with other people and get to know them, but also to really find out lots of things like financial literacy and how much insurance you should have, how to prepare for an interview, how to be on LinkedIn, how to connect with people, how to network, how to follow up, all these different things. You can all learn that stuff in the Win Again Academy and the events here in the Clubroom. Brandon, I've known again for quite a while. I'm a huge collector of sports memorabilia, and you may see a little bit of that in a few minutes. You know, the reason I worked, I really bought all my product and my stuff from Brandon Steiner and Steiner Sports back in the day was that I knew that his product was absolutely impeccable in terms of its reputation, its legitimacy. I knew that if I was getting an autograph, it actually happened. There's no fakes with him. He's an honorable guy, great guy. He's been basically the pioneer in the sports collectibles market. He was born in Brooklyn. He went to high school in Coney Island. He went to college in Syracuse. He was in a fraternity, I believe it was Fiji. So he's obviously a fraternity kind of guy. No, I don't know about that. But anyway, he developed Steiner Associates and started it back in 1987, a long time ago. And after 30 plus years of running that, and I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff in between, but again, he launched the Steiner Agency, CollectibleXchange in a couple of years ago, and he's just now kickstarting Athlete Direct, which is why we have Willie in the room. And we're going to talk about Athlete Direct in a minute. But Brandon, why don't you come on in? Hey, Brandon, there you go. You're in.
Well,
Now my big, what's that?
I was just going to say thanks for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. All right, Mr. Randolph, Willie Randolph, also born in Brooklyn. He was drafted by the Pirates back in 1972. I believe it was the 7th round. He played his first game in 1975, and then thankfully, the Pirates traded him to the Yankees, and he stayed a Yankee for 13 years. He became co-captain along with Louisiana Lightning, Ron Guidry, back in '86, and was co-captain for a couple of years. Played with the Dodgers, the A's, the Brewers, and wrapped up with the Mets in '92. He coached with the Yankees in a variety of positions there for 11 years, long time. Then he became the Mets manager in '05, was their manager for 3+ years. Probably one of their best managers ever, since they usually didn't have great managers, but that's another story. And best of all, the Yankees honored him by putting his plaque in Monument Park back in 2015. How did I do, Willie?
That was a great introduction, Mark. That was pretty good, man. Best I ever had.
Well, I'm on, New Yorker, and I got to rush through everything. I don't know why.
You talk fast just like I do. I talk fast too.
The problem is I don't know if I listen fast. That's the problem. I tend to filter a lot of stuff out, ask my wife. But anyway, so thanks for both of you being here. Brandon, do me a favor and tell me, and we're going to start almost backwards a little bit, but I want you to tell me a little bit about the new venture, Athlete Direct, and how you're involving Willie in that.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, Willie and I would go back a long way, and obviously an amazing player. You don't realize the depth of his career, which hopefully we'll get into. And then the winning. You know, when you add up the winning as a player and as a coach, it's crazy. So, you know, I just feel like sometimes some of that stuff gets lost in translation, you know, where there's been some amazing, extraordinary talent. And listen, I get the focus on the Michael Jordans and the LeBrons, but, you know, for a guy like me, I'm a Brooklyn guy. Like, Willie's my hero. Like, he's my guy. So I love Michael Jordan too, but if Willie's my guy I relate to, we came from the same borough, and I think that there's a lot of great players out there. So Athlete Direct just gives those athletes an opportunity, what I call a PAD, a platform, audience, and distribution. So Willie's got more trading cards and more game use stuff and things that are just incredible mementos. And now we're creating a retail site for him along with many other players. They could sell their stuff. And along with that, there's other things that Willie has that we'll get him involved with that will be private label products, food products, clothing products, and things like that as he sees fit. Willie's a very, very, very good instructor, to say the least. I can blow Willie up all day because I'm a big fan. But, we'll do streams possibly. We'll be able to teach hitting, stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about a 50-year major leaguer almost. I mean, it's hard to find somebody who's 50 years old, let alone doing something on his level for almost 50 years. I think this platform can really share with his fans all the greatness, all the things from a licensing standpoint, or just even for streaming and things like this.
Perfect. Actually, Willie, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. Not really, but here we go. I'm gonna share my screen and show that page actually with the Athlete Direct, and you can talk a little bit about. So if everybody can see that, you can see, for example, this looks pretty cool right here. I want to hear about these game used All-Star Game cleats. Pretty cool.
Well, first of all, I'm so blessed and fortunate to have been in baseball over 4 different decades, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And I came into the game, as you said earlier, from the Pirates to the Yankees. I was 21 years old, Mark, when I first came into the game. And I had my children young too, my son, my daughters. Even my daughters were involved in collecting and being around the players and getting to know them really well. So from an early age, I started just as a hobby, doing that for my son. And my son got involved in it. And it just grew and grew over the years. So I got really unique pieces, all kinds of different things. The thing about the shoes that you saw is that those are all-star shoes that each coach or player gets every time you go to the All-Star game. Now, as a player, you can go to the All-Star game, which is great. That's the ultimate honor. But as a coach, you get to go to the All-Star game if you win a World Series prior to that year. And now the manager of the team picks his coaches usually, and we go to the All-Star game. So that's where I got stuff for my coaching career and a lot of stuff for my playing career. And as I gotten older, my kids held on to some of this stuff, but I've always been around fans who really just obviously appreciate that stuff and appreciate my career. So I thought it'd be a great idea to be able to share some of my memories and some of my stuff with the fans. I mean, I can't take it with me. I'd rather them, experience it and share with their family and friends, because I got people that come to my house all the time and I can't look at it and they get bored of looking at it. So it gives me an opportunity to share this with people and they really get a kick out of it, because I got some really unique pieces. And again, I span 4 decades. So, I can touch each and every one of those types of eras.
That's awesome. And it's interesting. And Brandon, you were one of the really the first to really deal with game used items and things that are one of a kind. And that's my favorite stuff to own. And I've got a decent sized collection, a lot of game used and one of a kind things. But so Willie, and obviously and I'll put that back up real quick just for a few seconds, but just maybe if you want to sort of point out a couple of things. Okay. Here they are. We've got here, looks like the very first thing is a game used bat.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about some of these items here.
Yeah, well, that's the 1980s, game used bat. And, I was fortunate. A lot of guys crack bats, all the time, but I didn't crack a lot of bats. So if you notice on the handle, it was shaved down a little bit. I did that personally. I like to get a certain model, but then also if it came a little bit too thick, I would get one of those paint shavers and I would shave down the handle a little bit, would make it almost perfect for my hand, because I don't have big hands. So that was that's one of my best years, actually, 1980. I hit really well that year. I think I might have hit near 300, but I didn't crack a lot of bats. So a lot of the bats that you see are game used and the game bats that I brought home with me, because I lived in New York, obviously. So when the season was over, I could go to Yankee Stadium and work out and look in my bat rack and take bats home and stuff after a while. So that's my 1980 bat. Again, over to the right there, you got the 1992 bat. Again, most of them are game used. And again, it's unique because I even go back to the old Hilbert and Bradley insignia. Like nowadays they've changed them a little bit, Mark, but now I go back to the 70s where you get that really old school flavor from the Hilbert and Bradley. So that was pretty cool. The coaching shoes there. Right next to it is my the WBC helmet. USA. I did a lot of USA baseball. That's what I'm kind of doing now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're getting ready to qualify for the Olympics, hopefully. But we were the first team to win a WBC, after getting our butts kicked for 3 years by the Japanese.
Yeah, no kidding.
And
Yeah.
Dominicans won 1 year in Puerto Rico. So we finally won that series, and that was probably the most fun I've ever had in my life. It was right before spring
Wow.
training. Yes, and I've been a part of a lot of great moments as a player and a coach. But the excitement from wearing USA across your chest and winning for your country, it was a feeling that I've never ever felt before. So we had a great group of guys that came together to play for the United States of America. We kicked ass, and that's a special moment that I like to always.
Oh, that's really awesome.
Stuff,
that's
you know?
cool.
Yeah.
Brandon, there has been all kinds of changes over the last several years in how people collect sports items and so on. But to me, what seems to stick to be the most, at least what was most valuable, are some of the very older things, the Mantle stuff, or Joe D, or even like Willie and his era, that sort of thing. Whereas the newer stuff, especially the newer cards, are almost worthless to an extent. But what are some of the trends that you see going forward? Is that going to continue where the vintage stuff is the most valuable, or what are you seeing?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think right now there's definitely a lot of attention on vintage and back, even Willie's, especially Willie's era, which is we're going not back to Mantle, DiMaggio, but when you look at that 77, 78 team and some of those things, it's popping. I think that there's a big transferring of a lot of the baby boomers are now getting in their 80s. And there's nobody who's bigger savers than that generation. And they're starting to pass this stuff down. So we're seeing a lot of activity and action where people want to sell, people want to buy, because we haven't seen some of this stuff in the market because a lot of the baby boomers have been hoarding it. And you're looking at one of the biggest hoarders, actually looking at two of the biggest hoarders. And maybe we're both, because we're both from Brooklyn, but I'm a collector and a saver, but this guy is, there's nobody that, and organized.
I've been blessed. I've got all these great memories and stuff, man. Come on. I've been around the block.
When you grow up in Brooklyn, I think Willie would attest to it. And Willie, remember we did that interview back in Brooklyn a couple years ago, listen, when you grow up, like even where Willie grew up, like you appreciate everything.
Yeah.
And you're not throwing out anything.
No.
I started throwing out some sneakers that didn't have a hole in them. My mother would forget about it. Kill me.
And then I never thought. Yeah, and I never thought, that a kid growing up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, would ever play Major League Baseball. So as a youngster getting involved in that whole system, you're walking up to guys like Roy Carew and Thurman Munson and Roy White, Frank Robinson, and I'm like, I got to get this guy's autograph. I got to say hi to this guy. I get to know them. So I always talk about how blessed I am, but that's why I got into it. And my son, who played minor league baseball, was a huge collector too. So we kind of swap and share each other's stuff,
Now, just a real quick question about this other stuff, and I don't really understand it much, and I don't know, Willie, if you've seen it, and Brandon, you've seen it, but now you see this whole NFT stuff, these non-fungible tokens, they call it, but the stuff that you can buy online that's like a still image and crazy amounts of money. Is this something that's going to last? Not really. I mean, I like to touch and hold things, and you can't really do that with your laptop or whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
Listen, I like to, on the phone, we had a rotary phone. I like to dial the phone that way too, but, things change. So, listen, I like to hold things too. I hear you. I'm a physical guy. I like to have it. And I think it's funny you brought that up, because I think that where I think the NFTs are going is you have a digital experience. I think you have to respect the fact that younger ones, they feel if they don't have it on their phone or they don't have it digitally, they don't own it. We would all agree that if we don't have it in our hand, we don't own it. So there's a little bit of a combination. And I think that's where the NFT is going. I think you're going to, when you talk about having a digital NFT, it's an item, it's a piece of art, it's a photograph, and you create a digital animation experience out of it. Now, for us, that may not be as exciting, but for a younger person, it's like almost everything. So this is a very hard thing for a lot of people to absorb. So before we get into the millions of dollars, there's a lot of education that's going to need to transfer and take place. But however, I do think the NFT is here to stay. I do think it could be a really big market, not in the millions, but it'd be a combination. It'll be an experience of, let's say, Willie Randolph's glove from 1970s, from his World Series game. And it'll also be an opportunity to get that glove physically. And you may have the experience of even meeting Willie as part of the NFT experience, along with that glove or something with Willie being a digital animation experience. So you get a combination. So my answer is the NFT is here to stay. Maybe you're not going to see these millions of dollar transactions. You may be able to buy NFTs for $50 or $100, but thousands of them, and it'll be something that people will collect. But what's nice is there's the blockchain. So imagine the bat that Willie Randolph hit his first home run, which I would love to have. It's a cool career. He's a Hall of Fame career in my mind. Like, if Willie actually sold that bat, let's say 30 years ago, 40 years ago, for let's say $300, and now the bat's worth $3,000, Willie would still be getting money on the sale of that bat if it was an NFT. And we'd also have the blockchain to know exactly who bought that bat 30 years ago, who they sold it to, and who they sold it to. So you're taking the authentications up to another level. And then if I had that bat right now, I may go to Willie and say, Willie, would you be willing to do an appearance if I resell this bat? Because all of a sudden it's worth a lot more and I'm able to get this bat. Would you do an appearance and I'm willing to give you, on top of your percentage of selling the bat, I'm willing to give you an appearance fee. Let's go see if we can get $10,000 for the bat. So I do see a lot of the bigger names and some of the leagues moving to these NFTs, and maybe there's a way of not only if they're selling something, you're not sure if it's worth a lot, but if it does sell a lot more, you'll still get the royalties down the road. And that's why I see the NFTs maybe sticking. But there's a lot of education. There's a lot that has to happen. And by the way, just one thing for everybody listening, it's not easy to go create an NFT. It's not like you just take this, oh, okay, now we have an NFT. There's a lot of, you got to put a lot of money into creating a product to make it animation and experiential, and then put it on this blockchain and to mold it. So, and not everybody has a platform they could put an NFT on. There's less than, I think there's only several hundred NFT platforms as we speak, but definitely people building them. So it's not like anybody could just all of a sudden start selling NFTs. But that's, that's best I could explain it in 3 minutes or less.
Okay. Well, look, I want to give a couple of these guys a chance to come in and ask these questions, and then we can wrap it up, and you guys can do what you need to do. But I'm going to bring Matt in first. And Matt, do me a favor when you come in and just ask each of your questions, and then we'll keep it fairly brief. So Matt Wolfe is going to come in, and again, he's the founder of the Ticket Time Machine. Come on in, Matt.
Mark, hey Willie, hey Brandon.
Hey Matt.
Grew up in New Jersey, so big Yankees fan, and my family and all my friends are all big fans. So great to see you guys here. And Brandon, I'm a Ticket Time Machine's all about collectibles, so would love to grab some time and talk to you about it. My question for Willie was, who's the best player you faced or played with that isn't in the Hall of Fame?
That isn't in the Hall of Fame. Wow. Yeah. I always get that question about who's the best I play with, or, and usually, if they're really great, they're Hall of Famers. But wow, probably for me, because, I knew him as a youngster and I watched him work, and I watched what he was as the captain of our team and the heart and soul that he was. I think Thurman Munson is cut short, obviously, but there's no doubt in my mind if Thurman Munson could have had some longevity in his career, he would definitely be a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. The things he did behind the plate and the way he played old school hurt, and how he was able to, for a big, strong guy, he could run. I mean, for a catcher, but he can also drive runs in outside of hitting home runs. So to me, I always think about Thurman because I knew that his blood and guts were on the field every time he played.
We have Ron Blomberg, who was the first DH, put out a book, and he's making a big push to see if they can get Thurman into the Hall. I don't know that it will happen, but yeah, certainly well.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. There's big debate when it comes up to that. Even guys like Mattingly, I throw Mattingly in there too. I mean, Donnie, there's no doubt that anybody watched this guy play, and for 4, 5, 6 years, he was the best hitter in baseball. There's no doubt that Donnie Baseball would be in that group too. But I always have a soft spot for Thurman because, again, he taught me how to play the game, and we go back to when I was a 21-year snotty-nosed kid.
Yeah, appreciate it. And Brandon, I actually had, my father gave me some baseballs. They're signed by, I haven't gotten it great or anything, but they're signed by like Jackie Robinson and Pee Wee Reese and Roy Campanella. So my question to you is, and I said, short of life-changing money, I would never sell it or get rid of it. What's the piece of memorabilia that you own that you would never sell, for any really amount of money?
Well, I mean, first of all, you got to get those balls authenticated because there were a lot of clubhouse balls back then. So you may want to check and make sure that they're real, which I can help you with. If you reach out, I'll get authenticated. And I would tell you that now's the time to sell those things. The market has never been hotter for collectibles, and those are great items to have. Well, I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I was very, very young in my career, I didn't realize what Roy Campanella. I didn't really understand about the paraplegic part. I didn't really understand it fully. So I'm calling him up, trying to get him to come to New York for the weekend, thinking he would do an autograph show and do a whole appearance thing. And finally, he's like, "Listen, if I come, I have to bring like 3 nurses, and I have a special gadget." But to show you, like, I actually got Roy Campanella to come. I actually did his last appearance in the New York area. It was 3 days. And what I loved about Roy, and really just learning a lot about him, obviously, I felt like an idiot because just really not even understand how great he was, and then not even understanding that what it would take, like, to have a guy like that come and sign autographs, even, which is not easy. But in 3 days being with him, never once complained. I've never seen somebody more positive about the game. Said he went to watch games every day. He was like really so knowledgeable about the game. Anything I had asked him was just in-depth answers. And I think that we really missed out on really one of the greats, as far as really understanding what it was like for a guy like that behind the plate. I mean, Willie, you could probably comment on it better, but I think that he doesn't really get the props like for being one of the greatest catchers. He was a beast.
Yeah, he really was, and I had the pleasure to meet him many times and talk a little baseball with him. But I was obviously very close to Yogi Berra, and Yogi would rave about him all the time, about how he caught those great pitches like Newcomb and all those other great Dodger pitchers over the years. And again, he was a great hitter, but as a catcher, very cerebral. And to me, if you have a great staff, you have to know what you're doing behind the plate, because most pitchers who are great, they want to throw it to someone who knows how to control the game. So, I was around him briefly. He was always just a class act all the time. But I used to get giddy and get goosebumps when I was around people like that, because those are the real pioneers of the game and the real greats of the game. And for me to just be in their presence was always special.
Hey, Matt, thanks for that question. I really appreciate it. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
All right. And Brandon, actually, I think what Matt was asking, I don't know if you were able to hear it, but he said, is there anything in your collection that you own that you would never get rid of?
Well, it's an emotional answer, and I'm moving away from that answer because I'm really moving. The only thing I'm going to keep is my World Series ring from 2009 that the Yankees were nice enough to give me, because I was involved with helping open up the stadium. And I always kid Mariano that I worked harder for that ring than he did. Dude comes in for 15 minutes every few nights, and he's like, he was not happy about it. I was like, got my ring, man. But I love the ring just because I was very involved with that team. I was very fortunate to work a lot with those players. And obviously, I've never played a day of baseball in my life. So as far as my ability to earn a ring like that is out of the question. But everything else I'm really like disconnecting with, unless my kids have told me they want something. I've kept some of my old trading cards, but I have a lot of stuff. I mean, and Willie has a lot of stuff too, man. Like, I feel a little more normal when I talk to Willie because he's a little bit of a crazy collector. Like, my difference is my wife was drawing the line. She's like, you got to get this out of the house. It's enough already. And I'm feeling like I'm moving on to a new stage in my collecting anyway. Like, as I'm working with a lot of new projects and a lot of new things, I'd rather be more about those things than what I've created in the past. I'd rather go create new things with Willie, create new things with some of the different sports and different players, than kind of dwell on what I kind of focused on those last 30 years when I was with my last company. So I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I need to, in order to get my head thinking about the new things, I need to get those old things out of my head. And that's me selling all of it. So right now, that's why if you go to BidCX, you'll see a lot of my stuff right now is on the auction, and I'm moving on. I'll probably donate a lot of it to charity. And I think it's going to be better served with collectors to have that stuff than me. I think they'll enjoy it more than I've had.
I appreciate it, though. I just got the letter from the judge that said that you want to adopt me as one of your kids and then give me a lot of your stuff. So thank you. I appreciate that. I just got in the mail. But anyway, so one of the things I wanted to show you guys real quick, and I'm sure you've seen this before, but it's one of my little things that I got kicking around, is this stock certificate from 1917 or something for the Yankees baseball club. And it's an original thing, but they ended up deciding not to go public after all. But
That's
it's
cool.
like one of these things that, I got a long 1,000 years ago, but it's there's a lot of, like, you're right, there's a lot of cool one-of-a-kind things that are laying around. There's one other thing I got to show you before you leave, and we'll talk about this. This is a program from 1977, and I've got it signed by like 15 of the Yankees that played in that, except for Willie.
I'm not on there.
No,
No.
I don't know where you've been in your whole life, but I've never run across you.
The
But
beautiful
what's
thing
really,
is there's a button on Willie's website on Athlete Director. You can actually send some of that.
oh yeah, I'm going to drive it up there. I'm not mailing it. No, I got everybody. I got Reggie, Chambliss, Scullett, Guidry, Lyle, Rivers, Blair, Dent, Nettles, White, Klutz, and Lou. But this ticket, though, was literally a second row ticket for the playoffs, 1977 playoff series. And people are like, oh, how much were the tickets back then? It was $9.
Wow.
$9 to sit there.
Wow. That's pretty
Not
cool.
anymore.
You get more for that ticket now when you sell that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not really. There's no tickets anymore. Now everything's digital.
You're right.
So now
You're
you're
right.
seeing the price of actually former old ticket stubs going up.
Yeah. Is the whole thing intact? Is it
on tickets?
Is the whole
Absolutely.
thing intact? Is it intact, the whole thing?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I was here with my dad, and the bottom's ripped off, but it's it's a beautiful ticket otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
But anyway, all right.
Hey Willie, great to meet you. I'm a diehard Yankee fan. The Mick was my childhood hero, but I saw him hit his 500th homer at the stadium, and then I was in law school in New York, and I was in the nosebleed seats when Chambliss hit the big home run against KC. It went down on the field, which you can't do now. I got some of the turf. I put it outside my apartment window for months and months. But anyway, you were always a great player. But I'm such a diehard fan. With this increased emphasis on the shift these days, do you think the MLB will try to limit it? And what's your personal opinion on this increased emphasis on the shift?
Well, I get fired up when I talk about the shift because I don't understand why the players don't take advantage of the shift. I understand why the analytics are involved and you have this data to show where the guy hits the ball. But I guarantee you, I've never hit close to 400, but if I was playing today and they gave me the whole side of an infield, I'd hit 400, or at least I'd do that until they adjust to it. I really don't understand why the players don't take shots over there in certain situations, whether it's a push bunt, whether it's let the ball travel and stay inside of it. These guys are capable of doing it. But what's happening today in today's game is that they want you just to launch the ball for the most part. They want you to hit home runs. So there's no real incentive for the players to even take advantage of that, which is just kind of foreign to me, because to me, the bottom line is to win the game. And I've watched so much baseball, and sometimes I'll be honest, and I love baseball more than anybody. Sometimes it's hard to watch because guys are leaving men on base with less than 2 outs. When I'm tying run or winning on second base, and I'm throwing the remote at the TV. My wife's going, "What are you doing? What are you doing down there?" It's like, "Oh, I can't watch. It's just crazy, So I love the game. I do watch, but the bottom line to me is that, and on one hand, they're teaching guys to launch the ball, and I get home runs are great, but to me, you got to take advantage of RBIs because the key to the game is scoring one more run than the other guy. And what happens as a hitter is that once you start taking advantage of those opportunities, the defense will swing back the other way. So you can't bitch and moan about hitting into it. A lot of left-handers are like, "Oh, I hit to the shift, and I can't believe I'm frustrated." Well, you're the stupid one. I mean, come on, you're a better hitter than that. You're a professional hitter, so make that adjustment. I'm hoping, and to the second question, I'm hoping that they banned it because, again, I think it's going to bring more excitement in the game. I think the kids want to be entertained. It'll get back to hitting and running, bunting, stealing bases. And you're seeing a little more stealing bases this year, which I'm excited about. But to me, there's certain guys that you want to dead pull on. I get that. But when you have a guy out in short right center field or short right field, that to me takes away a lot of the excitement of the game, and you get those spurts where there's no action. So I want to see action. I want to see cerebral thinking and strategy. So I hope they get back to that. But I would be licking my chops today if I looked up and they gave me a whole side of an infield. I'd be like going, "Oh, this is unbelievable." I hit 300.
Yeah, and
I just want to double
LeMahieu,
down on
yeah,
everything.
LeMahieu
Willie
last
said.
year, LeMahieu was great against the shift.
Yes.
He can hit everywhere, you know?
But really, they didn't really shift on LeMahieu because of that
So
fat
true.
ratio. They
Yeah.
did a little bit of a shift, but for the most part, you see them going back the other way because he will take advantage of that going the other way.
Not that I have as much of an opinion as Willie does on this when it comes to this part of the game, but I cannot tell you how many old school baseball lovers that are completely emphatic about what Willie just said, and it just blows me away that we have, and the game's getting really boring.
It really is.
It's really boring because the strategy part, everybody just wants it on run.
And really, Brandon, it's really not about old school per se. It really it's about just playing the game. You know, I mean, you know, if when you walk on the baseball field, you're going to try to take advantage of every opportunity you get. The game is about adjustments, okay? And that to me is a simple adjustment because if someone's going to give you an opportunity to score runs, then you have to take advantage of that. I mean, I was talking earlier about this new thing with the catchers where the catchers on one knee. Are you kidding me? You got to catch you on one knee with scoring position, and they don't really run on that. I'm like, if I was managing today, I'd run you out of the ballpark, okay? Because that's difficult for a guy to be on one knee, you know, maybe pick a ball out of the dirt and get himself together, come up and throw the ball to second base. If you have any kind of speed, you should steal a base very easily on a play like that. So just taking advantage of opportunities. That's really all it boils down to.
Thanks. Hey, Larnie, thanks for your question. Appreciate it.
Great question. Thank you.
I was. So, you know, what's funny is that, what are they saying now that the average major league, the major league average is something like 228 or 232 or something. It's the lowest in history. It's crazy, right?
I mean,
no one's getting hits.
Back when I was playing, I keep saying back in the day, but when I was playing, you would get your pink slip if you hit. They would literally send you to AAA, or you'll be selling insurance somewhere, you know, next year or whatever. You know, I mean, it's crazy that the 220 average, with maybe throwing 20 home runs, is fine, but to me that would not be acceptable. I mean, back in the 80s, it wouldn't have been acceptable.
Absolutely. Hey, so Brandon, I'm going to just mention a couple of these questions real quick because we don't have time to bring everybody in, but super fast. Do you have a recommendation for a Canadian person where they could sell some of their baseball memorabilia and their cards? It's hard to find genuine interest in a hockey first culture.
I would, where they could sell it, I would put it on my CollectibleXchange. You know, CollectibleXchange is a new version of eBay, and the site has 100,000 items on there, lots of hockey, lots of everything. And I mean, my site's blowing up, and I would feel very comfortable putting it on, and I think you do very well. Love Canadians. I love their focus on hockey. Nobody's more committed to hockey than they are, but we're pretty committed to hockey here in New York too, by the way, with 3 teams.
Just a wee bit, yeah. Well, listen, I know you got to run in a second, Brandon and Willie. I really appreciate you guys being here. So super fast, Brandon, you talked about CollectibleXchange, Athlete Direct, but tell me a little bit about what's the best way for people to, number one, whether it's connect with you, reach out to you, or to really get on the site and start looking at a lot of the things
you want to get a hold of Willie, you have to send like an SOS. You send this thing up there, and that's like, well, I'm getting Willie going on his social media and stuff with his
cool.
son. We're gonna really,
you'll
great. Find Willie online. I mean, I just think there's a library going on over there with Willie Randolph. Like, there's a library. I've spent a little more time with him in the last few months, but I've really known him at least since the 90s. We used to talk when he was coaching constantly, and the man is a living library. So we're gonna have to figure out how to go get on social and start sharing all the stories. We could go on for hours. I'm a big LinkedIn guy, by the way, and you know, you could always get me on LinkedIn. You got to follow me, or you can go on my Facebook page and like me. But and I post often, so I'm a very active poster, and also an active responder to people that reach out and want to have questions and stuff like that. I really cherish the opportunity for customers and people to be able to reach out without having to spend an hour conversation with them. I think it's a beautiful thing. You know, got a quick question, I got a quick answer, and I'm moving on, and it's a nice thing. We don't have to go through, you know. So, but I'm really hoping, my goal in the next few months is to really get Willie more active on social media in some respect. Not you know, a couple of different things, because the stories are too good for him to hold on to.
I got a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, good stuff. So,
well, you know what we could do is
platform. You know, just showing him some different platforms and different ways to communicate. As now he has this career that is really not many people. can say they've had. I mean, it's insane. So now we're trying to figure out how to share some of the stories and perspectives, and especially since he has the ability to really say what he wants and do what he wants, it makes it even more interesting. He's not really, he's not held down. I could say that, right, Willie?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Well, you know what is what's really cool, Willie, is with this platform, and Brandon's already seen it, is that there's some other ones that you can't really interact with the people that are there too much. And here, what I really like about this one is that, especially when you have more time that you can share, you can sort of hang around all night and talk to people, but also do this sort of part too, where you're telling everybody the what's sort of been a game changer for me, being able to use this with the athletes I bring in. So, hey, quick note for you, Brandon. Brandy Chastain is in the house and she wants to say hello before you split somehow. So when we're done, we'll click down and you can say hi to her.
Brandy. First of all, you're not talking about a winner. You're talking about a champion. I got to tell you, man. I mean, Willie, Brandy Chastain, we were just talking about her. I met the manager for the 99 team yesterday. I was in Indianapolis, and the guy that was the manager for that team with her, we were just talking about her and that team. And he still works for USA Soccer, and really great character. And he just says, I mean, we had probably an hour about hearing Brandon Chastain's stories. Yes, it's that Dana. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Brandon. And there's no bigger fan than this guy of you, Brandon. I mean, an hour of Brandon Chastain stories about you, them having to actually pull you away. This is what I love. I'll tell you this one quick Brandy story, and that is, they had a game after game pull her away from signing autographs for fans. She would not stop signing autographs. What I love, and being a little biased on the whole thing, is that not only would Brandy would sign her name, but she would say, always have an inscription about dreaming as an inscription, and always give the fans the time, which, that not a lot of players are committed to doing it. We're talking about here. Like the bus is waiting for Brandy to leave, but obviously there was a big moment in women's sports, I think, and it's been really a turning point. And we wish Brandy a lot of luck with her new team, and also on her new site. She's also an Athlete Direct, so you can go and pick up a really cool Brandon Chastain item as well. She's a brother and a sister. So thank you, Brandon. It's nice to see you as always, and we'll have to catch up.
Cool beans. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I feel like I'm getting the visual time to wrap things up from behind there. So I'll let you guys roll, but thanks so much for Willie, don't turn around. Anyway, but gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll be catching up soon, and I'll make sure to send you guys this recording later on. But Willie, appreciate your time, and of course your time with the Yankees and so forth. Thank you. And Brandon, as always, I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you.
Take care, guys. Thanks, everybody.